Hello, everyone. Charles Coleman here, presenting to you a review/reaction with regard to the movie Snow White in 2025, starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. I just saw that film the other day, and I have some stuff to say about it, whether it be some good stuff and some not so good stuff. And the reason I'm calling this video a review reaction is because I want to give my review in conjunction to this video I found of another review of the Snow White movie. I have no idea who this guy is and I haven't watched the review at all, and I'm just curious on how similar or how different it is from my point of view, so that as I give my review, I will kind of mix my review in conjunction with what he says. This guy's name is, the video channel is called Adam Does Movies. I have no idea who this guy is, and I have not listened to this thing yet. The title of this video is Snow White 2025 Movie Review, Disney Does It Again. Now, I'm sure he wanted to make it kind of a vague title. Most of the other reviews have made their opinions clear in the title of their video as to how much they either like it or hate it. Apparently, most of them hate it. I myself, I think there are some issues, but I like to be as unbiased as I can and try to divorce myself completely from any of the negative publicity that accompanied its opening based on stories we've heard, tweets that some of the actors have said. To me, it just got in the way with trying to look at this piece objectively. And you have to remember, this is intended for younger audiences than me and most adults. So I wanted to give as unbiased a review, and I'm hoping this guy does too. I have no idea what he's about to say. Let's take a look.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, gross. Another middle-aged dude talking about a movie that's clearly aimed at families and little kids, primarily girls. And you are right, I'm a movie critic. I talk about the popular films that come out, sometimes even the ones I'm not interested in. But you know what? I also am a fan of Disney classics. So if it's snow wrong for me to go out and live a little bit of that nostalgia goodness once more, then I don't want to be Snow White. Subscribe for puns. But also maybe subscribe if you want a little bit of honesty, because that's what I'm bringing to the table. And I'm bringing it to you right now in a spoiler-free review of Snow White. Around the time when hell froze over, Disney decided, in its infinite wisdom, that they were going to take all their beloved family classics and just redo them. Under the guise of live action, even though a lot of them are still using a ton of CG. It's just the modern way. No artists working around the clock, hand drawing every single frame. Gross. Nobody wants to see that. Yuck. Not when we have state-of-the-art, modern, high-definition graphics that almost look lifelike. Because obviously the new generation of kids isn't going to be able to connect with Simba and the gang unless they are done in a photorealistic National Geographic style. But I'm already getting in the weeds, and that's going to finally take us where we're at today with Snow White. So before I talk about the pros and the cons, let's just get one thing Billy crystal clear right out of the gates. Okay. I don't like these live-action Disney movies. Okay, I don't like the practice of them. I just think they blow ass. And even the best one, on its best day, it's fine. It gets the job done for people going to the movies. So now that you have the knowledge that I am A, a fan of Disney movies, and B, not a fan of these live action ones, hopefully you can understand where I'm coming from a little bit more, because there's going to be a lot of people out there that tell you Snow White 2025 is the worst pile of crap ever made ever. If that's being stated, then some hyperbole is heavily being used, or they just haven't seen many movies, because Snow White is far from the worst thing.
And I completely agree with that. Again, he hasn't given his review yet. He shows a bias towards a modern use of technology. I don't know how I feel about that. I haven't seen many of these live action animated type Disney movies. I've seen I've seen Frozen and other animated films. I generally like this guy, and I like to make these making distinctions here as something that other critics have not. Anyway.
Ever seen, but I also wouldn't waste my time with it unless I was reviewing it for the channel. which obviously I am. Let's first
Same
talk
here.
about the story, which, believe it or not, is the place I think it excels at the most. And no, it's not because it shakes things up a ton. It actually doesn't. Some of the things that were reported on ahead of time are not true at all, but I'll get into that in the spoiler video. I don't want to ruin anything.
Yep.
I'll just say this. I recently rewatched the original Snow White from 1937.
As I did.
It is the first feature-length film Walt Disney and Company put out. So that by itself makes it a very special piece of history. The movie is not even an hour and a half. It's like an hour and 23 minutes or something. But for all the pros I can give that animated one, mainly from a visual standpoint, one place I certainly think it was lacking was the story. There's really no nicer way I can put this, but Snow White in that film is an idiot. She is so completely inept.
She's naive.
All she does is live in her own little bubble, cocooned from the rest of the world, singing a song here and there.
Yep.
Talking to animals because no one else wants to associate themselves with her. And we know so little about this character. Granted, it's 1937. We're lucky they just were able to get an animated movie out the door and make it look as impressive as it does. But still, the characters are lacking in that movie, and that's where this movie really...
Yeah, I think Snow White in the 1937 version, well, I mean, she might be a little naive. I'm not sure I look at it as cruelly as he does. She does tell the seven dwarves, wash up, or you won't get any supper. So there's a little bit of that in her, and then she's respecting decorum. She definitely has a lot less depth in her than the Rachel Zegler version here in 2025. Moving on.
Pumps things up. It gives us some background on this character. It lets us understand where she's coming from. You do kind of sympathize to her from the extent that you can sympathize with one of these manufactured conveyor belt Disney movies. And that same thing is also applied to the stepmother, the evil queen. She's played by Gal Gadot, which is a tricky one because I still don't know to this day if she knows how to act at all.
What did you say?
She kind of tricked me a little bit with Wonder Woman because that's an Amazonian, larger-than-life character. She can mask some of the poor acting behind the dialect and just the coolness of her. But I've seen her in some other things, and it's been pretty bad. Here, she's playing a ridiculous character, and so she's hamming it up. For that, I give her a pass, because honestly, it's at least somewhat...
I thought Gal Gadot, I don't know if it's Gadot or Gadot, but I didn't like her much at all. No charisma, and in particular, not much of a singer either. She, to me, was the weakest part of this 2025 film, and I think she was the biggest liability of this version. I didn't think she was that good at all. I would find myself wondering, was Angelina Jolie asked to do it first, or anyone else other than Gal Gadot? I wonder if she was even the first choice. But anyway, she was not that good. Moving on.
Enjoyable until she starts singing. Yeah. Oh my God, when she sings, it's just awful. Yep. Which I suppose would be a nice transition point to talk about the music in this film. Yep. All the favorites are here that you could just watch in the classic movie, but instead you're watching again because this is life now. We love reliving things. As far as the recreation of those scenes and the music, I'm not gonna lie to you, I actually like the new ones more. Because again,
I don't agree with that. Only one song I did like, that was Good Things Grow, which is the opener, and it comes back later in the film when a situation happens, and I found myself to be a little misty-eyed when I saw that, when they rebel against the evil queen. But most of the new songs in this film I did not care for at all. I thought it was cheap and just taken right out of the Disney playbook. It worked in Frozen, it worked in Little Mermaid. Let's use this formula again. The style of it, easy listenable stuff that you can take with a pill before you go to bed. So with the exception of the Good Things Grow song, every other new song in here was just bleh, as far as I'm concerned. So that's another liability I had with this Snow White film. Moving on.
About the original cartoon, outside of the history and the fact that it made Disney like a big thing, that movie just does not do anything for me. Because I'm a grown-ass man, but I also never liked it when I was a little wee boy. It's very much a personal preference, but that whole 30s Minnie Mouse voice type, never was a fan of that. Just whistle while you work.
She was a good singer, though, that first one.
Oh, Mr. Man's coming at me with a knife. Oh, I better run away.
You having
That
fun
for
yet,
an
buddy?
hour and a half. Rachel Zegler, or the Zegster as I call her, has a hell of a singing voice.
Absolutely.
And they take those iconic original songs, they shake them up a bit, they add a little bit more flair to them.
Rachel Zegler is a wonderful singer and a very good performer. I loved her when she did West Side Story 2021 with Steven Spielberg. I like that film better than the Robert Wise version from 1961. Rachel Zegler is a wonderful performer. Best thing in this film, too. Rachel Zegler is wonderful. And anyway, let's see what he says. He's continuing on.
Spread them out more. They mix some of the songs together. And those are kind of the highlights of the movie. They also add new music. And those are not the highlights of the movie. Outside of the first song we're introduced to, that's going to be our Princess Hero song that leads throughout the film. Think Let It Go from Frozen. Think How Far I'll Go from Moana. Why Do I Know These? They did that same thing in the modernized Aladdin. They had to give Jasmine her powerful, strong female lead song. Jasmine, played by Naomi Scott in that movie, almost saves the thing because she's just a treasure to look at and to listen to. Anyway, there are 3 or 4 new songs in this movie, which increases that runtime, unfortunately. We're getting closer to the 2-hour mark. This one runs about an hour 48.
Yeah.
And I think families and the little ones are going to have no problem sitting through this thing, which, let's face it, that is the demo for this movie. But I'm a bitter, jaded, cynical old man, so let's talk about some negatives for a little bit.
We agree on
and
this
that's going to
one.
lead us right into the dwarves in the room. Oh my gods, what were they thinking with these animated things? You've probably seen a bizarre cartoon ad at some point recently that was clearly done by a computer using AI. These dwarves look like they were generated using that very same AI.
Yeah.
They are bizarre looking, and you never get used to them. Also, the voices they chose.
I like these dwarves. They looked bizarre, but I think that's the point. They're not just dwarves. They're of an animated particular type, and I personally like the way they were done, even though we heard that actors were intended to be the performers in this movie, and then Peter Dinklage spoke out about how much he hated that concept, and Disney caved like wusses and decided to make them animated. Despite all that, I have no idea whether any of that happened, but the bottom line is these animated dwarves looked great to me. I seriously, maybe I don't know, maybe future hindsight I'll see it again and I may have a different opinion, but at the moment I gotta say I thought the dwarves looked great. They looked perfectly fine. There were moments where I even forgot that they were animated. So anyway.
Chose for these characters almost never match up. 3 of them sound like they were voiced by Josh Gad, which is bizarre because I don't think any of them are voiced by Josh Gad. So the dwarves are just a trash fire, although I did enjoy their rendition of Whistle While You Work. I cannot believe I am talking about a Snow White live-action movie in 2025. What a world we live in. Remember Snow White and the Huntsman? I think they made 2 of those. The first one was all right. I don't think I ever saw the second one. There were a lot of articles online surfacing about this movie over the years, what a disaster it is, how they have to do all these reshoots, how they can't use real people anymore to play the dwarves, now they're CG. There was at one point a photo going around of 7 or 8 ragtag misfits of different heights and colors and sizes, and it was speculation that those guys were playing the dwarves. They were just going to change it all together to magical creatures or something, like it's Harry Potter. But then I read they were being used as placeholders for the CG dwarves, which made less sense. But after seeing the film, it turns out that none of that was true.
Right.
And if it was, Disney really liked these actors and still wanted to use them, so they rewrote huge...
We have no idea, but yeah, there was a photo that came about that supposedly were the actors that were playing that were hired to play the dwarves, non-animated, and that they were let go because of comments about using dwarves, playing dwarves in the movie, and how woke, politically incorrect it was. It turned out that these actors that he's talking about were, in fact, in the film as bandits to Jonathan, the good guy, the so-called love interest to Snow White in this version. So that was apparently a big misunderstanding. I don't know whether that was intentionally known or deception of some sort. Anyway.
Huge portions of the script to accommodate these people, which I also wouldn't be surprised about because they do feel forced in the movie. But rest assured, that photo that was going around, we do get to see those lovely folks. I posted a short out of theater reaction to this movie, and I stated pretty much that, hey, I don't like these live action movies, but good news, this is one of the better ones of all of them, okay? It's fine. If you're a family wanting to see something over the weekend, you could do worse. I can tell you that.
I appreciate him making that distinction. I can tell that he has his criticisms. We don't agree on everything, but I like the fact that he's making a distinction between the genre that he supposedly may not like and the particular films that come out of that genre. I like the fact this guy is giving a more intricate review than most of the other guys did, that there's no overall brushstroke point of view. And he's putting a little depth into this, unlike other people. Moving on.
I can tell you that right now. It'll entertain, it'll get the job done. That's pretty much verbatim what I said. And some people commented and they were angry, or they were like, bull crap. This movie is terrible, it's atrocious. And I'm sorry, but I have a hard time believing people thought it was atrocious. Like, who would waste their time going to watch the movie unless they're a critic like myself? You can see the trailers. It's not much different from what you're getting there. Regardless, it's actually not that hard to be one of the better live actions because we have so many terrible ones. Lady and the Tramp, a lot of people don't know that exists. It exists.
Never heard of it.
Pinocchio, a lot of people don't know that one exists. It exists. Aladdin is mediocre. And that's where I would put this, right next to Aladdin. A watchable, unnecessary waste of time. But unlike the modern Aladdin, this new Snow White actually does improve things. There is not one thing from that last live-action Aladdin I can say is better than the animated classic. In this new Snow White, however, there are a few things I think it does better. But someone at Disney must have got the notes, because this movie doesn't feel near as flat as some of those other ones do. I think I'm going to be done there. That's a good place to stop. Again, I will have a spoiler video in a day or two, so please think about subscribing if you want to hear a more in-depth conversation about the movie, maybe a little bit more ranty about some of the stuff that doesn't work, and a few little things about what does. I post a lot of movie reviews, live streams, reactions every single week, though. I'd love to have you stick around. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, comment down below, hit the notification bell so future videos by me show up in your feed. And hopefully, I see you next time. Take care.
All right. So I don't know if we fully agree on everything, but we took a look at more innate details beyond the surface, unlike a lot of other critics have been doing, or self-proclaimed critics here on the YouTube channel. I do my share of reviews. I'm not nearly as much of a critic as others, but I have stuff to say, and I have a channel, and I like to say it, much like this guy and others. And I like the fact that this guy, his channel, Adam Does Movies, goes particular. I like the Seven Dwarves a little better than he did with regard to the animation. But, I think we generally agreed. There are some, the songs, he liked the songs better than I did, and we both agreed on one song, and we agreed on some of the performers. I want to add a couple more things I liked about the film. I remember when I saw the 1937 version, I remembered when I saw it as a kid, the huntsman is ordered to kill Snow White, and he decides not to and let her go. And I always wondered, whatever happened to the huntsman? Did he survive? Well, in the 1937 version, that question is not answered. But in this version, that is answered. He becomes a much more intricate character in this version. I like that personally. Maybe it's a small little thing, but it meant something to me having seen the previous 1937 version. Also, there is a character, I don't want to say too much, but there's a character that is referred to, and there's speculation on whether he is alive. I don't want to spoil too much, except to say that it ends up not working out as hoped. And usually in your average popular film, and in maybe particular Disney films, that guy, the mysterious guy that people have heard about and no one knows where he is, suddenly comes out and helps save the world at the end. Let's just say that Disney took a much different direction with that in this film, and I liked it. I liked it for its realism, and I appreciate that that was a different take than what is normally done, and I personally like that. And as he said, this is geared towards younger audiences, which I think like it. I heard some kids giggling at the funny moments in Snow White, and on the whole, I didn't think it was terrible. He and I agreed, the critic and I agree on some things and disagree on others, but we at least were able to try and look as best as we can beyond the fervor that accompanied the opening of this film, which I thought was awful. If a movie is good or bad, it should be on its own merit, not some speculative publicity that was generated by it. And that's pretty much what I have to say. So, interesting review. I appreciate what this guy did, and I wish we lived in a world when we can do that more often. Anyway, I'd say Snow White is ultimately good. Scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 6.5 or 7. That's my point of view. Take it or leave it. Until next time.